No body of man ever had the right to guarantee the holding of human beings in bondage. Who or what were the framers of our government, that they should dare conform and authorize such high-handed villainy, such a flagrant robbery of inalienable rights of man, such a glaring violation of all the precepts and injunctions of the gospel, such a savage war upon a sixth part of our whole population? They were men, like ourselves, as fallible, as sinful, as weak as ourselves. They are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They had no lawful power to bind themselves or their posterity for 1 hour, for 1 moment, by such an unholy alliance. You drive them into the fields like cattle, starving and lacerating their bodies, selling the husband from his wife, the wife from her husband, and the children from their parents, spilling their blood. And we have nothing to do now but speak peace and peace to one another in our sins. We are too wicked to ever love them as God commanded us to do. We are so resolute in our wickedness as not even to desire to do so. We are so proud in our equity that we will hate and revel whoever disturbs in it. We want, like the devils of old, to be let alone in our sin. We are unalterably determined, and neither God nor man shall move us from this resolution, that our colored fellow subjects shall never be free or happy. You shoot them like dogs, and rescue them from their vengeance, dripping as it was in human blood. We solemnly pledge you our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor that we'll stand by you to the last. But not afraid to look monster, slavery, boldly in the face. It's the enemy of God and man. Never hope to be united, or happy, or prosperous people while he exists. Divide the union? You must perform your duty faithfully, fearlessly, and promptly, and leave the consequences to God. The duty clearly is to cease from giving countenance and protection to Southern kidnappers. Let them separate. If they can muster courage enough in the liberation of their slaves is certain. Be assured that slavery will very speedily destroy this union, if it let be alone. But even if the union can be preserved by treading upon the necks, spilling the blood, and destroying the souls of millions of your race, we say it's not worth a price like this, and that it is in the highest degree criminal for you to continue the present compact. A large portion of the northern states believe slavery to be a sin. I would consider it as an obligation of conscience to abolish it if they should feel themselves in any degree responsible for its continuance. And that is a doctrine would necessarily lead this belief of such responsibility. I then predicted that it would commence as it has with this financial portion of society, and that they would begin their operations on the ignorant, the weak, the young, and the thoughtless, and gradually extend upwards till they would become strong enough to obtain political control. When he and others holding the highest stations in society would, however reluctant, be compelled to yield to their doctrines or be driven in obscurity. They who imagine that the spirit now abroad in the north will die away of itself without shock or convulsion, have formed a very inadequate conception of its real character. It will soon continue to rise and spread unless prompt and efficient measures to stay its progress be adopted. Already it has taken possession of the pulpit of the schools and to a considerable amount extent of the press, those great instruments by which the mind of the rising generation will be formed. However, sound the great body of the non-slave-holding states is at present. In the course of a few years, they will be succeeded by those who will have been taught to hate the people and institutions of nearly one half of this union, with a hatred more deadly than one hostile nation ever entertained towards another. It is easily to see the end. It is impossible under the deadly hatred which must spring between the two great nations. If the present causes are permitted to operate unchecked, that we should continue under the same political system. Abolition and the Union cannot coexist. Never before has the black race of Central Africa, from the dawn of history to present day, attained a condition so civilized, so improved, not only physically but morally and intellectually. In the meantime, the white or the European race has not disintegrated. It has kept pace with its brethren in other sections of the Union where slavery does not exist. It is odious to make a comparison, but I appeal to all sides whether the South is not equal in virtue, intelligence, patriotism, courage, and all the high qualities which adorn our nature. But I take the higher ground. I hold that in the present state of civilization, with two races of different origin and distinguished by color and other different physical differences as well as intellectual, are brought together, the relaxation now existing in the slaveholding states between the two instead of evil, a positive good. I feel myself called upon to speak freely upon the subject where the honor and interests of those I represent are involved. The labor of the African race is among us, commanded by the European. Compare his condition with the tenants of the poor houses in the more civilized portions of Europe. Look at the sick, the old, the infirm on one hand, and the midst of his family and friends under the kind superintending care of his master, mistress. And compare it with the forlorn, wretched condition of the pauper in the poorhouse. But I will not dwell on this aspect of the question. I turn to the political. And here I fiercely exert that the existing relation between the two races in the South against which these blind fanatics are waging war forms the most solid, durable foundation on which to wear free and stable political institutions. It is useless to distinguish the fact there is and always has been an advanced stage of wealth and civilization, a conflict between labor and the capital. The condition of society in the South exempts us from the disorders and dangers resulting from this conflict, and which explains why it is in that political condition.